that time of the day. It's time for Talking Pints. My guest today is Charles Ray, veteran. No, I can use that word, can't I? Veteran.
I prefer that than to old.
Journalist, commentator, industrial correspondent, royal reporter. You've done it all. Welcome to the programme.
Yes, cheers, all the best.
Good to see you. Now, 50 years in journalism.
Yeah.
Would you do it all again?
Yes, I would. I'm doubtful if I would do it again under the new system. You know, the way things are at the moment in newspapers. It's a dying industry. Circulations are all the way down. I mean, when I worked for The Sun, we were 4.8 million a day.
Yeah.
That's going into practically every home in the UK. I think it's now down to under a million, which is a bit sad.
But there's online journalism.
There is, absolutely, but some of it online, and I'm not just talking about The Sun, I'm talking about other papers as well. The quality of the stuff that they put online is, I think, can be very poor. I mean, there's ages missing, court case locations missing, sometimes not even a verdict on someone who's been convicted of something. So,
which may mean there are good opportunities for bright young journalists who want to get it right.
Yes, I would hope so. I mean, The Sun itself has got a scheme where they bring in, you know, young talent and train them up. They send them out to the local papers. They send them out to PA, and then they come back into the family, and they have a good grounding, and I'm very, very supportive, you know, of that system for them, rather than just taking someone who's got a university graduate degree of some sort that may have nothing to do with journalism. And I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not as good as the ones who get real proper training.
Now, you work your way up through the local newspapers, and sadly there are fewer local newspapers there. Then there's still some around out there, and I spotted looking up on you. You were the Wolverhampton Express and Star, a newspaper that I know very well from my years in politics, and it was kind of when you were there, Charles, that you got your big break, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was during the kidnapping of the heiress Leslie Whittle in Staffordshire. And coincidentally, at the same time, there was a series of post office robberies by a guy, mask, gun, the whole lot. And I think he was dubbed the Black Panther because of these robberies. And I had a phone call one day. We used to cover various areas, and my little area was Bilston, which is about 3 or 4 miles away from the actual Wolverhampton centre. So I had to go out there at least twice a week. And of course, I ended up seeing a few coppers in the days where you could still speak to coppers, you could play cards with coppers, you could take them for a drink, and no one jumped up and down about it. And I had a very, very good contact there. And he rang me up the one day and said, we've just had a car into our yard. I said, oh yeah. He said, it's the car that's been used in the post office robberies. I said, oh, right, OK. He said, but not only that, they think it's linked to the kidnapping of Leslie Whittle. Well, my second word was...
This was the famous Black Panther.
This was the famous Black Panther, who had been involved in all this. And I went back, I wrote the story, gave it to my news editor, and said, oh, this is brilliant. No confirmation from the police, because they were trying to keep everything under their... It was Bob Booth, I think, was the chief superintendent at that time, and he'd come in for a lot of criticism. So no confirmation from anyone, and I got the splash with it, obviously, and every day, because it wasn't confirmed until a week later, and every day my news editor would come in, and his actions would be more ferocious than the day before. Said, I hope you're right, culminating in if you're not right, I'm putting you on the train back to Glasgow myself, and I'm walling up Hadrian's Wall. And I mean, I started to doubt myself, and I kept ringing my contacts saying, are you sure? Oh, yeah, it's definite. There's no question about it. Forensics are all over it. They've got the links. There's no question about that. 7 days later, official announcement.
You were right. And when you look at that, Charles, is that a case of making your own luck in life?
I think partially making your own luck in life. It is the old-fashioned way of... there's no point sitting in an office in front of a typewriter and doing everything on the phone. You've got to go out and meet people. You've got to go out and take them out, you've got to get to know people. You've got to get to know the police, the firemen. We used to have to go round the police stations, the fire station, and the ambulance crews with bottles of whiskey. God, can you imagine trying to do that in this day and age? You'd be up before some court or whatever. But it was a mutual...
But the principle's right, though, isn't
Yeah.
it? Because, I mean, this work-from-home stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no long-term future in that.
There
And
is
for young
none.
people, whatever walk of life they're in, they've got to meet people, haven't
You
they?
have got to meet people. I mean, I remember when I was in Scotland on the West Lothian Courier, it was so long ago, they still had adverts on the front page. And we used to have to get a bus out to a housing estate about 4 or 5 miles away from Bathgate and go and see the local gossip. And she would give you everything that was going on. Oh, Jessie's been doing this, she's having a cake sale. And you have your notebook filled with all this stuff. But it helped to sell papers. And you met people. And it's a great thing to just meet different people from different walks of life.
Absolutely.
Nigel, you know as well as I do, you're never going to get on with everybody.
No.
But you're going to make an impact with the people that you do
and that's
know.
what I mean about making your own luck. And
Yeah.
I think it was a big story for a lot of
Sure.
for a lot of young people out there, you know, just being stuck to a computer, or you've got to get out and meet people. Now, you get your big break from that, you come to London, and before you know it, you're being poached by Kelvin Mackenzie.
Yes.
As the industrial reporter. Now, it's really interesting, this, because for the last 25 years, industrial reporter has been a very, very junior position. But this was a big deal then, wasn't it?
I was going to be one of the 3 industrial reporters. One of the others had moved to the Mail, so I was going to be filling in for them. And Kelvin just rang me up the one day and said, right, I want you over here, come and work for a real newspaper. And that was fine. And you're absolutely right. Those were the days where all the newspapers had more than one person doing industry. On a pop paper, like The Sun, there was usually 2 or 3, and we covered everything. On the heavy papers, like the Financial Times and the Times, they had maybe 6 or 7 with different specialisations. But it was a great time in the 70s because it's like royal reporting. You know, when I did royal reporting, that was one of the key things that you had to do. There's always been royal reporting, politics, and in those days, industry or labour news.
Yeah.
And we did it all. We went on to so many picket lines. I mean, even...
Well, governments fell, didn't they?
Governments fell.
Thatcher had to fight to the end with Scargill.
Sure. And well, she won that one, but she ended up, you know, getting turned over at the end by the party. But with the industry as well, you met all sorts of various heads of the unions. People like Jimmy Knapp, Moss Evans, Len Murray, who was at TUC. And they always made the pretence of, oh, it's the Sun, we're not going to talk to you. But they would talk to you. I mean, I remember sitting in a room in Blackpool at a conference with people like Mick McGahey, you know, and
communist.
Yeah, a communist. But we had a common thing. We were both Scottish. So, I mean, I don't know if that helped or hindered. I wasn't terribly sure. But at least they would talk. The one thing they always realised, there's not much point in just telling the Times and the Financial Times what was going on, because that's the boss's papers. Yeah. You had to tell the Sun, the Mirror, and the Daily Star, because that's the lads. They were the papers the lads read. And the Daily Mail, of course.
Well, maybe industrial correspondent could be back as a big deal again.
Well, it could be, because the way things are going at the moment, there's a lot of ammunition out there to do a proper job of industry. I mean, I think some of the political boys are taking on that role. But, you know, industry, I think, this year is going to be a big, well, strikes and everything else are going to be a big news topic.
No, I do too. And, of course, royal reporting for all those years.
Yeah.
What do you think of Prince Harry?
Not very much, to be perfectly honest. I still think this is a guy who decided to leave the royal family, which is fine. You know, he wanted to leave to get away from the media spotlight. Well, he's not done it very well, has he, really? And
well, he has. He's got $100 million.
Well,
apparently.
yeah, okay, yes, but he's got $100 million for trashing his own family.
Yeah.
You know, for accusing his father of lying in that documentary, of accusing his brother of shouting and screaming at him. And he's now doing a new TV document, two new TV interviews, saying he wants his brother and father back. It was a funny way of doing it, of trashing them. And his book's coming out a week today, in fact.
I know.
It's a difficult thing for them to do. I don't know where it's going to end. I think the royal family are right to stay stum. They'll keep inviting him. And this is the point. He did the Oprah Winfrey with Meghan. They got invited to the Jubilee. Obviously, they got invited to the Queen's funeral, as you would expect. He was the grandson. He will get invited to the coronation. But it'll be interesting to see if he turns up, because the coronation's on the same day as Archie's 4th birthday. Now, are they going to stay with Archie? Are they going to bring Archie?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You see, Charles Ray, once a journalist, always a journalist. And great to have you on Talking
It's a pleasure.
Pints.